So now we move on to our next topic, which is healthy aging. And as per usual, we will start off with fake or fact. And longevity means living a long life. And is it mostly in your genes? That's fake because it's only partly genetic. Researchers estimate that about 25% of the variation in lifespan between individuals is inherited from our parents. There is not just one gene that predicts a long and healthy life. So far, a few genes have been identified, but there are many genes involved in regulating how long we can live, and we have no control over our DNA. However, the good news is that we can exert some control over the environmental and lifestyle factors that determine how long we will live. Exposure to environmental toxins, our physical activity level, and if you can guess this, our food choices play a significant role in not only the amount of years in our lives, but also the amount of life in our years. With all of the advances in healthcare and sanitation, the demographics of developed countries are shifting so that as a population, we are getting older. In other words, more people are living longer. In North America, the group constituting those aged 85 plus years is the fastest growing segment of the population. Even more amazing is that the 6 million or more people in the US could be over 100 years old in 2050. In terms of how these older individuals, older than age 65, are doing, they make up less than 15% of the US population, but account for more than 35% of all prescription medications used, 35% of acute hospital stays, and almost 35% of the federal health budget. Among older adults, 80% or more have chronic conditions such as cardiovascular diseases, type 2 diabetes, hypertension, cancers, and osteoporosis. This graph shows the growth of the US population of older adults starting in 1900 and projected out to 2040. This chart shows that the proportion of the total US population composed of older adults has been steadily increasing over the past century and how this trend is expected to continue. The 85 plus demographic group, which is the green line as we see over here, although still the smallest group in total numbers, is expected to experience the most rapid rate of growth. By 2040, the population aged 85 plus 85 plus years in the US is expected to double its current size. Although not shown here, this is in contrast to the shrinking of most demographic groups under the age 45 as a percentage of overall population, as many people in that age group are opting out from having children. And this is a worldwide trend that we see in a lot of developed nations, in Japan as well, that is actually an aging population, and that even in places in Europe, where many younger people are opting to not have kids. This means that there will be fewer younger people that will be available to care for a growing population of older adults. So preventing or postponing the onset of these chronic diseases for as long as possible can help control healthcare costs and improve quality of life. Diseases that are commonly accompany old age is like are osteoporosis, cancers, and arteriosclerosis, for example, are not an inevitable part of aging. Many can be prevented or managed by adhering to positive lifestyle behaviors shown here. And so this figure is actually adapted from the World Health Organization, and it shows us that healthy aging includes adopting a healthy lifestyle with environments and opportunities that enable individuals to engage in a meaningful and productive life. And so this infographic emphasizes individual and environmental influences on aging and provides recommendation for healthy aging. And the World Health Organization defines healthy aging as the process of developing and maintaining that functional ability that enables well-being in older age. Healthy aging enables individuals to be and do what they value, including a person's ability to meet their basic needs, learn, grow, and make decisions, be mobile, build and maintain relationships, and contribute to society. And adulthood is actually the longest stage of the normal life cycle, beginning when an adolescent completes his or her physical growth. From the beginning of adulthood until age 30 or so, the body operates at peak performance, stature, stamina, strength, endurance, efficiency, and health. During this time, the rates of cell synthesis are balanced with the rates of cell breakdown in most tissues. At this stage, nutrients are used primarily to maintain the body rather than support physical growth. And so when we look at aging, it can be defined as the physical and physiological changes in body structures and function that occur throughout adulthood as humans mature and become older. Inevitably, though, cells begin to age and die. After age 30 to 40, the rate of cell breakdown slowly begins to exceed the rate of cell renewal, and it leads to a gradual decline in both your organ size and also efficiency. And so this graph shows the decline in physiological function often seen with aging. The decline in many body functions is especially evident in sedentary people. For adults, the biggest driver of your BMR which is your basal metabolic rate, is lean body mass. So the more muscle you have, the more calories you burn even at rest. And so men usually have a more lean mass than women, which is why their BMR is higher at all stages of life. And we've gone through this in the previous module. And also remember that most adults lose muscle mass and gain fat mass as they age. And if your BMR goes down, guess what happens to your overall calorie needs? They also decline, which makes it easier to gain weight. And this is why regular exercise, including some strength training, is very, very important. So as we can see, over the years, all of this physiological function will slowly start to decline, some at a faster rate than others. And the specific mechanisms of aging remains a mystery. Most likely, the physiological changes of aging are the sum total of automation cellular changes, which are your lifestyle patterns and environmental exposures, as is listed here in the table. And here you can read about all these genetic mutations in DNA, oxidative free radical damage, cellular components, hormonal changes, glycosylation of proteins. And even with the most supportive environment and healthy lifestyle, cell structure and function declines over time. Chronic diseases and degenerative processes have been assumed to be unavoidable consequences of aging. Certainly, some of the declines are inevitable, such as the gradual reduction in cellular function, graying hair, and reduced lung capacity. However, many age-related changes can in fact be minimized, prevented, and/or reversed by just having a healthy lifestyle, making sure that you make good choices, such as maintaining nutritious dietary pattern, engaging in regular physical activity, and getting adequate sleep. And also kind of avoiding adverse environmental factors such as excessive exposure to sunlight and tobacco. And you can also go through this yourself, reading about the other causes of aging, which is autoimmune malfunctions, immune system inefficiency, programmed cell death, and also excessive calorie intake, and how does that promote rapid aging. And so these discoveries about the causes of aging have led researchers to introduce the concepts of usual aging and successful aging, as we can see here in this slide. As body cells eventually age, however, to a considerable extent, you can control how quickly you age throughout your adult years. And so when we talk about usual aging, it refers to those changes commonly thought to be a typical or expected part of aging, such as increasing body fatness, decreasing lean body mass, increasing blood pressure, declining bone mass, and the progression of chronic diseases. Successful aging, on the other hand, describes physiological declines that occur only because one grows older, not because lifestyle choices, environmental exposures, and chronic diseases have accelerated the aging process and assaulted body tissues. Those who are successful agers experience age-related decline at a slower rate and the onset of chronic disease symptoms and disabilities at a later age than usual ages. Striving to have the greater number of healthy years and fewer disabled years is referred to as compression of morbidity. In other words, a person tries to delay the onset of disabilities and discomforts caused by chronic diseases as long as possible and to compress or reduce age-related illness into the last few years or months of life. Lifespan refers to the maximum number of years a human can live. The longest human life documented to date is 122 years for a woman and 116 years for a man. Life expectancy, alternatively, is the time an average person born in a specific year can expect to live. Life expectancy in North America before 2021 is about 76.2 years for men and about 81.2 years for women, with a span of healthy years of about 64.7. And after 2021, that number went down to about 73.5 years for men and 79.3 years for women. And if you remember, this is because of one of the biggest drivers for this reduction in life expectancy is due to COVID. America had the highest death rates for COVID-19 in the world. And we also know the rate at which one ages is determined by genetics, lifestyle, and environment. With the exception of genetics, most of the factors that influence the rate of aging are directly linked to lifestyle behaviors that are largely under our control. And if we look at this graph, it says that the US will trail other rich nations in life expectancy by 2030. And despite being the largest world economy and being highly developed, the US faces challenges such as high child mortality rates, homicide rates, and high body mass index, which negatively impact life expectancy. Countries like France and Japan have significantly higher life expectancies, with people living up to 88 to 90 years old, and it's particularly notable among women in South Korea. The US is experiencing a decline in life expectancy, which is concerning trend for a developed country, indicating regression rather than progress in health outcomes. And various factors can also contribute to the decrease in life expectancy in the US, including but not limited to healthcare disparities, lifestyle factors, socioeconomic inequality, and access to healthcare services. And so very important to kind of understand how these factors drive the decline of life expectancy in the US to address public health challenges and implement effective interventions to improve health outcomes and life expectancies in the population. But with that said, we are still seeing an increase in that above 80 years old age group. And so if you look at this slide, the break in the link between life expectancy and health span refers to this concept where despite people living longer lives on average that increase life expectancy, they are not necessarily living those additional years in good health or free from any age-related diseases and disability, which is what is known as your health span. And traditionally, the improvements in healthcare, sanitation, and nutrition, and other factors have led to increase in life expectancy, meaning that yes, people are living longer. However, these extra years may not necessarily be spent in good health. And so when we look at this discrepancy, it highlights a need to focus not only on extending lifespan, but also improving health span. And it's the period of lifespan in good health and free from chronic diseases and disabilities. And the shift in focus the shift really focuses and recognizes that simply living longer is not sufficient if those extra years are characterized by poor health and reduced quality of life. And so, what researchers are kind of looking at is if there is a way to bridge the gap between lifespan and health span. Living to an old age tends to run in families. If your parents and grandparents lived a long life, you are more likely to live to an old age too. Studies of twins indicate that about 25% of longevity can be attributed to genetics. For humans, as well as most other species, females tend to live longer than males. Another genetic characteristic that may influence longevity is metabolic efficiency. Some researchers have come up with this hypothesis that individuals with a thrifty metabolism requires fewer calories for metabolic processes and are able to store body fat more easily than those with faster metabolic rates. Throughout history, it was the individuals with thrifty metabolism who tended to live the longest because they efficiently stored fats during times of plenty and thus had the energy stores needed to survive frequent periods of food scarcity. In today's environment of labor-saving devices and abundant energy-dense foods, however, a thrifty metabolism may actually reduce longevity. Accumulation of excessive body fat increases the risk of developing health problems, heart disease, cancer, hypertension that reduce life expectancy. So another thing that we can look at is lifestyle. And lifestyle includes one's pattern of living, which includes food choices, physical activity, and substance use, such as alcohol, drugs, and tobacco. Lifestyle choices can have a major impact on health and longevity, partly by regulating gene expression. If individuals have a family history of premature heart disease, they would be wise to adjust their dietary and activity pattern and to avoid tobacco products to prevent the onset or slow the progression of the disease. And the converse is true too, that lifestyle choices, highly saturated fat dietary patterns, and sedentary lifestyles can increase susceptibility to non-communicable diseases that hasten the rate of aging, ultimately shortening life expectancy, even if a person does not have a genetic predisposition to disease. A plant-forward dietary pattern, exemplified by this bowl of chickpea salad with avocado and vegetables, is a common feature among populations who enjoy long, healthy, and productive lives, also known as the Mediterranean diet. And several communities in which people often live to see their 90th, 100th birthdays includes places in Okinawa, Japan, some parts of the Mediterranean region, and areas of California that are home to members of the Seventh-day Adventist religious domination. And we're going to be talking about that in the next couple of slides. And so when we look at it, lifestyle is actually really the largest factor affecting longevity and healthy aging. So yes, genetics and environment does play a role, but the nutrient influence on healthy aging is being studied so extensively in humans and also many animal models, and it really just shows that lifestyle is the biggest factor. We can also look at environmental factors, such as income, education, healthcare, shelter, and other social ecological factors exert a powerful influence on the rate of aging. For instance, the being able to access and purchase nutritious food, obtain optimal healthcare, and reside in safe housing all decrease the rate of aging. Having the education to earn sufficient living wages, as well as the knowledge to make wise lifestyle choices, also can slow the aging process. the ability and willingness to seek healthcare promptly when it's needed, the health literacy to understand a healthcare provider, and the ability to accept responsibility for one's own health can slow the rate of aging. Likewise, safe shelter that protects individuals from physical danger, environmental toxins, climate extremes, and sun exposure slows the aging process. Allowing people to make at least some decisions for themselves as well as their control of their own activities. So giving them that autonomy as well as providing psychosocial support, which is that emotional and information resources can help promote successful aging and psychological well-being.